Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com, and what I want to do today is go over Next.js's feature set. So we're not going to necessarily build an app, just going to create a new Next.js project. Let me just close this terminal. Okay, and so I'll create a fresh terminal, and we'll create a React Next project, which is a framework built on React, but has it's like React on steroids with all the little goodies that you would want to do all sorts of things you can't just do in plain old React. So if I do npx create next app, it asks me what's my project name. I'll say my app. It installs the project. Easy peasy. And then I cd into the folder, my app. And then we get this set up. So here we have our package.json with all my scripts. So if we wanted to run the dev server, I would just do npm run dev, and that's going to run the server. So let's see what the default is. It's doing the thing. So you created this temporary folder with the output. Okay, it's served on localhost 3000. So I'm going to open up a new tab window, bring that over here. All right. There we go. Localhost 3000. Okay, and then you end up with a page like this. Okay, that's your default Next.js page. Now, basically the way this works is there's a couple things you can do. You can do static file serving. So I could put an HTML file in here and it's statically served. So I should be able to put a new file woo.html, and then if I say we'll just put an h1 here, woo. Okay, and then I'll just run the server again just in case. But if I go over here, I should be able to go to / well, I should have kept track of how many O's. Woo.html. Okay, so / woo.html, and I get woo. So you have this public folder where you can statically serve. It's really meant for CSS files, images, assets you'll use throughout your website more than actually serving HTML files. But hey, you could, if you just needed a offhand HTML file, you can serve that statically there. Now in the pages folder, this is sort of the pride and joy of working in Next.js. Because the way it does routing, if you ever use React Router, setting up all those route components and router props can be sometimes very tedious. What you do here is just that it's all based on the file name. So see here we have index.js. That's what you're seeing when you go to the main page. So this is index.js. Now if I were to copy this file, copy. Okay, and then I'll just paste it in pages and create a file call it cheese.js. Okay, and then what I want to do is I'm just going to get rid of pretty much all the content in this cheese file. So now it's pretty much just a div. We'll put h1 cheese. Okay, what's going to happen is this function is the component. So again, this is a component that's being export defaulted. It's going to treat that as the code for the page. So then when I go to /cheese now, see, I get cheese. Okay, and the reason it knew that is because in the pages folder, if it's the file name, the file path is the URL. So pages is slash, so cheese.js is a slash. Or another way I could have done this. So if I were to create a folder named cheese, so let's create a new folder named cheese. And then I could put that cheese file in that folder and rename it index.js. That'll also work because it'll treat the index file as sort of the default page in that folder. Okay, and what's it complaining about here? Import styles. Okay, yeah, these are all relative imports. So let me just get rid of all this. Okay. So now if I go to /cheese, styles is not defined. Oh, let's get rid of that reference there. Again, keeping it basic. There we go. So now I refresh the page, and there we go. So it's cheese. Okay, so it's all based on the file path. That's really cool. That is pretty sweet. Okay. I think this just kind of describes like the general template for how these pages work. I'm not sure what these underscore files do, but also in the API folder, this is also extra cool. You can actually define API routes. So in this case, I could be like, let's create new file cheese.js in here. Okay, and then essentially what we do is we just export default. Do I need to import anything in particular? No, I just export default a function handler that's very similar to how you would write them in Express. So function cheese rec res. So if you've ever written routes in Express, this pattern should look very familiar. Rec res, and then I can just like, let me just see how it does it in hello. Does it return? Nope. Yeah, this is res. So I can just do like something like res.json, and then put like hello or cheese Gouda. Okay, so that would be like an API route. So now I could actually go to /API, and again, it's based on the file name, so /cheese, and there's like an API endpoint, and I can put whatever logic in there, use whatever libraries I want. So that's pretty cool. Okay, very neat. Okay, let's take it a step further. Okay, let's make a copy in this index.js inside this cheese file. Paste. And we're going to rename this which.js. So see how I put it in front of square brackets? What that does is that it makes the which a param. So it's like /cheese/ anything. Okay, anything after cheese would then be that param. Okay, now if I want to go grab that param, what I would do is I would just import use router from next router, I think. Yep. Next router. And then we'll just say const router equals use router. And then we'll just say const which equals router.query.which. Okay, and there I've pulled the param, and we'll just say that whatever cheese I chose will show up here in the h1 as which. Okay, so there's that file. So now if I go to /cheese, so let's go /cheese /Gouda. If I go to /cheese /Munster, see, it's grabbing it from the URL. Okay, and if you've ever done like URL params in React Router, that's a lot easier. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And the thing is that if I were to plan a query in there, so if I were to put like an h2, and let's just say we'll just put router.query.bread, because those will be stored in there too. So if I were to add a query to the end of the URL, so we say bread equals rye. And there's the rye. Okay, so all your queries, all your URL params can be stored inside that query object that we pull out of use router. So that makes life pretty easy. That's very cool. Okay, so those are like the cool, like low-hanging fruit features of like Next.js. Now things get extra cool when we want to have pages rendered somewhere other than on the client side. Okay, so right now I think by default everything is still client side rendered, but if I want something to be rendered, statically, what I can do is I can export a function called getStaticProps, and I can define props that exist, and then what it does, it pulls those props at build time. And basically the way that would work, like, it's like right below the component, I would just do like export getStaticProps, or actually it would be like get export function getStaticProps. and then I would return whatever the props are going to be. But then when it sees this function, it's going to realize like, oh, okay, this is a statically rendered page. Or if I were to do like get server side props, it would then treat that page as a page that gets rendered on the server before it actually sends it to the client. So I can actually control how the page gets served, and where the props are coming from through these functions. And then like, so I can say, hey, I think this page, and there's incremental. This is like a really cool feature, progressive incremental regeneration. The way this works is that, let's say you were doing a static page, so you'd use get static props. You can actually specify in those props a period in which it regenerates, so meaning it'll re-render the page. So you can say every 20 minutes, like the first request, every 20 minutes, regenerate the page. It'll rebuild it, get the props the same way you did before, rebuild it, and update the statically rendered page. And then for the next 20 minutes, it'll just serve that statically rendered page. So you could set up to rebuild every hour, to rebuild every day. This way, like if new data comes in, the new data is reflected on the page, but you're not necessarily having to serve a freshly regenerated page on every request. Now there may be situations where you do need to regenerate on every request, and that's when you would use get server side props. Although there shouldn't be too many situations where you need that, but if you do need that, you can, probably maybe for like SEO purposes of dynamic data. Because you could also just make an API endpoint and have that pulled in client side, just through normal fetch requests, however you want to do it. But yeah, that's kind of like what Next can do for you. Like it offers you all this extra stuff that you wouldn't otherwise have normally had in just normal React, and would have been tricky to set up. Okay, and that's just really, really cool. Now, if you prefer Vue, there is Nux, which is kind of like the equivalent in Vue. If you prefer Svelte, there's SvelteKit, which is sort of the replacement of Sapper in the Svelteverse. And if you like Angular, there's Angular Universal. I don't know if it replicates all the features. I think Angular Universal is mainly server-side rendering, but there's Scully, the static generator. But Angular has features built into it that kind of take advantage of a lot of the same things too. So there's that. But this is just kind of a cool workflow. And hopefully you guys kind of enjoy this quick tour of NextJS and kind of like what NextJS offers. Have a great day and enjoy.